and go there and resend and ask them to come back. I'm not sure why that happened. So, but I know that some people will come behind the scenes to come and accuse me of sidelining them. I'm not calling anybody's name so that nobody comes to my house. But yeah, I want to ensure that I have sent the link, justifiably sent the link to everybody, so nobody can hold me and come and harass me later. I am good. All right. I should state for the record that we are also streaming this on YouTube. And this is also being recorded. I should state that for the record. It's important to state that. I should also say that there are a couple of people who are still going to join us. I think one of our speakers is here already. We are still waiting for one of the other speakers who isn't here yet. I'm sure he will join us as time goes on. Okay, by way of introduction, first things first, I'm going to put on my camera in a bit. And then you can see what I look like for those who don't know me. Where's my camera icon? Okay, great. I think I should do this. Okay, so hello everybody. Thank you very, very much for taking time out. I know we're all very, very busy people. And we've taken time out of our very busy schedules to come be with us today. Somebody's actually missing, somebody's moving houses, I know. Somebody's missing a coronation, I know. People are missing different things to be here. So it's pretty nice to have everybody here together today. This is OMAC. It used to be called Tech TRNC, but we changed the name to OMAC. And this is our 8th event. We've had 8 events since we started. So this is number 8. And it's been a very, very wonderful time speaking with and getting people to understand the possibilities that exist in technology. I need to do this, and I always have to do this every time we do this event so that we all understand why we do what we do. It's not essentially to just showcase and get people to come and talk and have fun. That's not what we are doing. It's because, on one hand, some of the challenges that exist on the island of North Cyprus in terms of employment, in terms of opportunities, in terms of challenges, are prevalent in our day-to-day. And, we decided to begin to have conversations about it as to how we could make the best of the situation and make the best of what we can do when we can do it. And that's so we started the OMAC conversations. And so along the line, we started to get some partners, like you see on the screen, Caretta Robotics, T-Vine Publications, CIUCF, who graciously, gave us a paid Zoom subscription to do this. Extrafemi, the GTAD community as well here on the island. And they've been very, very helpful to us since we started. Like I said, it's important to have these conversations and share these things so that we know why we do what we do. It's also important to state that the goal of these sessions is to do 3 things. Number 1, create awareness of what exists in tech, both on the island and off the island. One of those conversations yielded, I know on the flyer you saw 2 speakers. We actually have 3 speakers. The second speaker is a bit of a surprise. We met at our last event, and we got talking, and he shared with me one of the sectors on the island in tech that most people really don't talk about. And I didn't know that. I mean, I knew it was possible, but I didn't know there were people in that space on the island. I'm like, let's have that conversation. So the first thing is to create awareness about what can we do in tech on the island or off the island. That's 1. 2, if this is what we can do, how can we do it? So then we have people in those spaces and we bring them to come talk about how you can get started. So our first speaker is talking to us about product management, for example, and how you can get into that space and do what you need to do in that space. The third conversation, which hasn't happened yet, we are still a long way from home, is to engage stakeholders at higher levels. It's to engage stakeholders at higher levels and say, okay, this is what's going on. And these are some of the ideas that we have. And this is how we think we can, these are some of the solutions that we have to change a few things on the island and change a few policies on the island. And when I say it hasn't started yet, it just means that we haven't made much progress. Of course, talking is easy and talking is cheap, but we haven't like gone further than that up until this point. Okay. So having said that, you can follow our website, allmark.card.co, and see some of our past events, what we've done. Some of our recordings are also on YouTube, so you can check them out and see what we have done so far. Okay, now that my partner in crime is here, I have been waiting for him. Now that my partner in crime is here, he is going to be introducing the very first speaker for today. He's going to be introducing the very first speaker.
It wouldn't have been a problem if you told me that.
So, please let me know when you are ready, Mr. Chi. Let me know when you are ready so we can get started with our very first speaker. He will be the one doing introductions. The format is simple. This event will last for 2 hours. We usually try to keep to time. All our events are 2 hours, no more, no less. Whatever we're doing has to end by 2 hours. The speakers will speak for 15, 20 minutes each. And then we have a 20 minutes question and answer session. So if you have questions when someone is speaking, just note down your questions. We have a dedicated question and answer session at the end. And then we're done. That's basically the format. The first speaker, the second speaker, and then the third. And then we now have a general question and answer session. So you don't forget your questions. Please write them down, note them down. And then we can take them all together at the end of the session. Also, if there is if there are people that you think should be in this session, who you feel this session will be beneficial to, and who are not yet here, who are not here, please feel free to send them the link. I'll put the link in the chat box. I'll put the link in the chat box, and then we would, so you can share it with people who you think should be here but are not here. As much as this session is hosted from North Cyprus, anybody anywhere in the world is welcome to attend. We don't have preferential treatment to anybody. We are not limited to anybody. All right. Partner in crime, please tell me that you are ready and we can get started. He is the one who is, or should I go ahead on your behalf? He is the chief introducer of our speakers. So you can send me a private message if you want me to go ahead on your behalf, so that I can then, so we don't waste too much time. I think I have done the introductions. I think I'm done with introductions for now. Aha, okay. So he says I can go ahead, no problem. Let me see if I can share my screen. All right. And there you go. I'm not sure what I am sharing actually. Let me try again. I think this particular screen I want to share. Aha, so I was sharing the wrong thing. Okay, so our first speaker for today is Uche. Miss Uche Uduma. She's a product manager. She's a Global Award nominee. And she's asked me not to say this. But all I would say is she's done quite a bit in the product management space. And I'm trying very hard not to say things so I don't get into trouble with her. And she's been kind enough to put I hope you know, if we don't know, the coronation of King Charles in the UK is today. And she actually got free tickets to attend. And she decided to come here instead. And I think for a lot of people, not many people get invited. Not many people get tickets to a coronation in their lifetime. I actually sent her a message and said, I mean, I get it if you don't want to come, because, I mean, how many people get tickets and how many coronations would you get invited to in a lifetime? But she decided to be here. Thank you very much once again. So please, let's make welcome Mrs. Uchenna Uduma. Uche, please take it away.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's Miss Uchenna Uduma, first and foremost. Secondly, just to clear the air, it's not like I was invited to the palace or anything. My cousin and I was just supposed to view it, go somewhere to view it. But that's aside, thank you very much, Femi. I appreciate the introduction. And I'm very happy to be here. So to get started, I'll be talking to you about my career journey and just how to land your first tech role. So first and foremost, my name is Uchenna, as you already know. I'm a product manager. I've been a product manager for 4 years. Unofficially, probably for more, because as time goes by, I realized that over the years, I've had at every job that I've been at or I've worked at, I've had sort of a product manager role in one way or another, kind of fused into my role, tied into my role. And so it's very difficult to quantify, but officially I would say 4 years. So what is product management? So product management, people would define it as a field in software technology that basically combines, so it's like an intersection between technology, business, and UX. UX is user experience, right? So you have UX, which is user experience, which is how the user experiences your product, and then you have user interface, which is UI, which is basically what the user or your customer actually interfaces with, what buttons they click on, what the product actually looks like, just for anyone who isn't aware. And so product management for me, I think is beyond those that intersection. For me, it's as much as, yes, as a product manager, your role is trying to fuse, trying to make sure any products that you ship within the company ties into the business goals, any technology product, and also making sure that it's desirable, easy for the user to use and they have a really good experience. I think it's beyond that.
Sorry to
product-
interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. I'm going to take you back a bit.
Okay.
Because someone asked me a question the last time we had an event. Could
Okay.
you quickly clarify what a product is? So that when you say product management, the conversation becomes easier. Thank you.
Okay, so product in this context is a software product, a digital product, right? So a mobile application or a website or web application. So websites are different from web applications. Web applications are broader, they involve different technologies. But yeah, so websites, web applications, and mobile applications, software-wise. These days, the product manager role is coming up in different sectors. Everyone basically has a technology product or like a software product, right? You have a website, almost everybody. If you want to have a digital footprint, you actually have to have a software product. And so beyond even software, everybody else is building products. So everyone has a product within their company that they would need to see developed, right? And they would need someone who would oversee that, which is essentially what the product manager role is all about. Someone who oversees product development from ideation, from requirements gathering, from when you have the idea to your research and basically down to launch. And so, yes, that's essentially what that is. Femi, did you have any other question?
No. I just wanted to clarify that. Please go ahead.
Okay. So yes, going back to what the product management role is all about, for me, it is about managing people. So you're managing your customers, you're managing your team. Usually you would work with a cross-functional team, which is a team of different teams, right? So it cuts across engineering, design, QA, which is quality assurance, sometimes business analysts, sometimes data engineers. So you're managing everyone's efforts and everyone's delivery timelines, right? You're managing your customer as well. You would, in some situations, have user research sessions. You might need to have focus groups with your customers. You would need to, step in sometimes with customer support in order to answer a customer's questions. You would need to have market research skills. And so therefore you might need to actually go into, if your product is having a problem or you're about to launch a product, you need to go out there to see what people think of what you have, or even just what the prototype looks like. So you have that's the customer side, right? And then you have your team side, and then you have managing the expectations of your superiors, so management. Management wants something done. They want that product to have a new feature. How do you communicate to them that you don't have enough resources, or the team would not be able to deliver in the timeline that management expects? And so it's like juggling all the expectations, or the expectations of everyone. And so for me, it's more of a people role than just about like an intersection of technology, UX, and business. Those skills are definitely important, but that's I think people should also be added to that. So if you Google product management, for instance, you would most likely see that like a Venn diagram of that intersection, and just bear in mind that your role in practice as a product manager would be very people oriented. And so, done with the definition and what the role entails, what skills do you need to be a product manager? Like I mentioned before, you need people skills, very important because you're managing expectations, managing different people. You need time management skills. You need to be able to negotiate. That is a very important skill because, for instance, a scenario in which engineers have delayed, you were supposed to deliver something by the 5th, say or the 10th, say by Friday next week. And you already mentioned to management that it will be delivered then, but then something happened, there's been a glitch, and there might be a 2-day delay, right? You would have to convey that message. You would also have to convey that to the team, and also put enough pressure on the team, or to, also communicate with the team and be able to negotiate. Okay, you want 2 more days, can we make it a few more hours, or can we make it just 1 more day? Can you work over the weekend? You should also be able to influence people without that authority, because as a product manager, as much as people say the product manager is the CEO of the product, to some extent they are, right? Because you're making decisions for that product. However, you should see it from the point of view of you're more like a butler, right? And so you have to make sure that all these things and everyone's timelines and worries and emotions are managed, right? What other skill should a product manager have? A product manager needs to be assertive. They should be able to conduct research. They should be able to have presentation, they should be able to have presentations, right? They should be able to deliver documents. And for instance, in a scenario whereby management expects that a feature should be done or built out, and you feel like another feature might be best for the company and for the users because that's what the users want, right? You would then have to convince the engineers why, first and foremost, obviously management, you would have to convince management. But if management signs off on it, you would then have to convince the engineers why you should be building this feature out. And basically, like I said before, influencing without authority, right? Try and see why, or empathize with the user, empathize with management, and also empathize with your teammates, because they're the ones that are actually going to be doing the work. So there's a long list of skills, hard skills and soft skills, very long list. But essentially, people skills, most important. Being able to analyze, so product analysis, data analysis to some extent, being able to visualize things and being able to document things, right? So in product management, there are things called artifacts or agile product management. There are things called artifacts, which is basically documents. It's just fancy words for documents. And so you would need to be able to learn how to do those things, or write those documents and use those documents to convince or to make your points clear to whoever you need to convince, right? Yeah, so that's basically about the role. How do you get into the role of a product manager? Personally, I started out my product management career in Nigeria, and so at that point, I couldn't afford to even take some courses that I would love to take. Essentially what I did was I had a course with a company called Utiva, which is a company, a talent accelerator in Nigeria that basically takes courses at a discounted rate in comparison to like most other like global companies. They teach you the tech skills, and once you're done, hopefully you have someone who is not just going to stop at the course you've done. You're actually going to read more and take more courses and learn more and stuff, and so you can use that knowledge to get into the industry. So in Cyprus, for instance, I'm not sure what the market is like there, or what the industry is like there. But if you have any organizations that you can actually take courses, there's Coursera as well, there's Udemy. Personally, I believe Coursera is more credible, especially when you're looking for a role, because it's not essentially crowdsourced knowledge. Like it's not a crowdsourced knowledge base like Udemy. It's very structured. It's usually provided by organizations or universities, like the training, right? So it's more credible. Also, Product School, there's a company called Product School that is also a talent accelerator that you could take a course with if you can afford their courses. Their courses range from I think $1,000 something dollars to about $5,000-6,000. If you can actually afford it, I would say go for Product Schools one, because especially if you're trying to get a job in the US, or in fact UK, US, they are quite recognized, right? In the tech, especially in the tech space. There are new certifications coming up. Well, not exactly new, but like they were in there like 20 years ago or 30 years ago when product management, was in its infancy. But we have AIPPMM, we have a CPM, that's Certified Product Manager. We have CSPO, that's Certified Scrum Product Owner. If you're wondering why I'm telling you to do a product owner course for a product manager role, they are kind of similar. Sometimes product ownership, or being a product owner, is like a small part of what a product manager does. In bigger organizations, they are split up, but in a startup, you would most likely be doing the job of a product owner, right, as a product manager. So, and obviously starting out your career, you would most likely start in a startup. I usually tell people to start small and then build your way up, right? Because startups are more fast-paced, and they provide like a learning ground for you. They basically toughen you up in terms of the amount of the workloads that you're going to need to be doing and the learnings, right? But depending on the country in which you're in, I don't know if starting out small might be advantageous to you in the long run. So for instance, I started out small in Nigeria, in companies. They're doing well globally. They have companies in Africa, but when coming to the West, I don't know that those companies hold as much command as much respect as, take for instance, if I had worked at companies here in the UK, right? So getting into your career, I would say you should be you should have those things at the back of your mind. And usually I tell people you need to be very intentional, whatever you do, right? As a product manager, just getting into the product management field, envision what you want for yourself in the next few years and actively take those steps to get those things done. So if you want to work at Google, for instance, or excuse me, Amazon or any of those companies, think to yourself, what courses would I need? Probably go to the website of any of those companies right now to see what their careers page looks like, what they're asking of product managers, and map out your career for the next 5 years based off of that, right? If you're not too fussed about any of the fan companies, then I would say start small, build yourself or build up your capacity and grow from there. In terms of the trajectory of your career as a product manager, you would usually start off as an associate product manager, or a product intern if you're still in university. After university, or once you graduate, then you can go into product, being an associate product manager. But sometimes you might not need to be an associate product manager. Like I tell people, if you've taken your courses, if you've read the books that you need to read, you've gained the knowledge in theory, then you can actually apply to product manager roles, right? Especially if you're in Nigeria or if you're in a place where there aren't that many high level tech jobs, for instance, or the product management field hasn't really developed. Like I said before, I don't know what it is like in Cyprus, but if it's anything like Nigeria, then I would say do that. However, if it's not, if it's more like the UK, then I would say start out, from being an intern and then work your way up like that, so that you put in the work and you're learning and actually reflects on your resume. So you started out as an associate or an intern, depends on where you are in your career, and then you move to a product manager role, and then there's a senior product manager, group product manager, I think the VP, director product manager, VP product manager, and there's the CPO, which is Chief Product Officer. So think about what you want for yourself, and be intentional. I think that's basically all I would say about that. The product manager role can be daunting, especially when you're starting out. It might seem daunting, but I would say just persevere, be intentional, and always think about people, right? Think about people on your team, think about your users, empathize with them. How would they think? What do you think is making them make the decisions that they are making? If you can't think about that, then speak to them. Empathize with management, because you also need to meet business goals, return on investment, revenue, sales targets, right? And yeah, just believe in yourself and just go for what it is that you need to achieve. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope you have questions at the end.
Thank you very much, Uche. There are questions. People have been sending me private messages.
Okay.
I said it before, write your questions down and we have a general Q&A at the end because we need to save time. So all the questions will come at the end. We have a 20-minute question and answer session. So please note it down, write it down, and we'll take everything together. Because like I said, this event is 2 hours, and by 1 o'clock, not Cyprus time, we all should be out of here. All right. Thank you very much, Uche, for that session. That was quite insightful.
Welcome.
Getting and landing your first role in product management. Product management is one of the biggest roles right now. Not in North Cyprus, obviously, but North Cyprus is not a regular country, so that doesn't count. I think that we have a unique opportunity in North Cyprus. It's hard at the moment, yes, but I think we have a unique opportunity in that we are almost neither here nor there. So we can take advantage of that. We just need the right, either the right policy or the right person in the right place. And then it can all fall into place. I was on LinkedIn the other day, and there was this American who lived in North Cyprus who sent me a personal message, and he says, oh, we'd like to have a chat. So we had like an online call, and he's telling me who he's trying to build a freelancers community. He said, because of the war in Ukraine, Ukrainians are coming to the island, the Russians are coming, so he wants to find a way to tap into that market. So he's asking me, how do freelancers on the island get paid? And all the banks, none of them want to do business. Once they hear you're transferring money to North Cyprus, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to be sanctioned and all of that. So he's asking me, okay, what do I think and all of that? I'm like, this is exactly what I, have been talking about for quite a while. I'm just trying to say that we're close. The opportunities are not many, but they are there. And well, we'll keep trying. Okay. At our last event, I met a young man. I'm not going to say his name. He's going to introduce himself because, like I said, he's a surprise speaker. He's a surprise speaker. He walked up to me and said, okay, I noticed that in all your events, you don't talk about hardware. You only talk about software, that some of us, we don't really do software. We're hardware guys. We like hard things. I'm like, you mean there are hardware people on this island? I was reading about the guys doing robotics and 3D printing, and even that is not very popular because not many people are interested in it. And I mean, since I started this journey, I don't think I've met somebody who came and said, oh, I would like to learn 3D printing. I haven't met such a person. And Character Robotics has said, if we have anybody who is interested in 3D printing, send them to us. We're open to internships. We're open to taking them in. I haven't met anybody. And he says, we're few, but we're here. I'm like, okay, come share a few things with us. So, like I said, I'm not going to mention his name, but I hope you are ready. Please put on your camera. We need to see your face.
Because
this is your first
I
time.
Wasn't aware that I would have to turn on my camera.
First time speaking at OMAC, but second time attending OMAC. Unfortunately, Michael is not here. I met him through Michael. Michael is a software developer in North Cyprus as well. It was quite good to have met him. Please put on your camera. We want to see you. If this was
Can you guys hear me?
I said we should sing for you, but let's just keep things professional. You said what?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm saying put on your camera so we can see you.
Okay. Just one moment.
So yeah, please introduce yourself, what you do. Everybody's expecting and hoping to meet with you.
Hi, I'm Bezalel, and what I do is more around systems integration, system security integration. Do I have to leave the camera on this entire time?
Yes, because like I said, you are currently a celebrity in the house. So
okay,
please, you can begin your session altogether.
Okay. Thank you, Omak, for having me. I'm Bezalel. It's been a pleasure having to talk to you and learning that there are platforms like OMAC who are trying to bring some of us together. It's been a while. I think the last time I had an experience, a tech-related experience, was maybe 4 years ago. And this was not unique to tech so much as it was social entertainment. And so a number of us came together, and it was more of a sit down to just discuss openly. And it was fruitful, but there was no follow-up to it. So I'm hoping that Allmark will be this platform where many tech people come together and hopefully something big comes out of it, or something good comes out of it. So like he said, I am a hardware guy, but that's maybe understating it, because I do software, I just do software as it relates to hardware. And much of my career experience has not been a linear path like many people would. The first speaker mentioned starting in product management. It is really not so easy for me to pinpoint how I got started. I can say I can go as far back as when I was much younger, as a child. My exposure to hardware, of course. However, career-wise, I've been more towards security, hardware, software security, and that started out for me fully in 2018. So I returned to Nigeria in 2018, and I was called in by a friend about a security breach. Now, prior to that, I'd had some experiences with security, and especially personal security, but also small businesses around me. But nothing at the scale that I was called into, to the issue I was called into to tackle. It was a government agency. They had a security breach. They'd lost files, and they needed, first of all, someone to patch in the security, but also try to recover the files. So it was kind of daunting, because I literally didn't settle in. I just landed at the airport. A friend picked me up, and I went straight to his house. The next morning, we were at his office. And that was my introduction to working for a big agency with unlimited resources, because it was a government agency. Now, that got me fascinated at the prospects of being able to secure a job without necessarily having to present any relevant certificates or credentials, especially when you know that we're living, or we come from a country where your certificate plays a huge role, right? I think the concept of networking became a very big thing for me afterwards, because I realized then that much of the gigs that I'd had in the time I was in Nigeria for 16 months. And I think 70% of the gigs I had were referrals from people I knew and from events I had been to. And so I would get a call from someone asking if I'm this person, if I could come in to resolve an issue. Now, I can't go into the details of some of the people I'd worked for, unfortunately, because a number of them are government agencies, but also security outfits. So, but suffice it to say that it was a really great experience for me. You basically give them a blank check, essentially, right, for the job. And that's exaggerating it, but you tell them what you need, the equipment you need, and also the resources, and they just give you room to do your work. It was fascinating having to interact with certain people that I never really thought I'd have the opportunity to interact with. Now, to give you a background as to how I got to this point, and I mean, we're talking about starting your career in tech. Now, to give you a background on how I started down this road, I am too curious, or too inquisitive. And it also means that I cannot sit still for too long. There's always something new to learn. And I also like tinkering. So I build things and I break things. I break a lot of expensive things. And I was raised in an environment that fostered that kind of curiosity. My family, especially my dad. So I broke a lot of things in the house. However, what that did for me was it allowed me to learn how to fail and fail really fast. I think something we're not generally taught or allowed to do in coming from that background, for most people, you would agree that failing is unacceptable. For me, failure was, okay, you have learned that this doesn't work, so you have to switch to something else. And so it was an opportunity for me to constantly refine whatever it is I was learning. So that allowed for the fostering and growth of many other skills. So you get to a point in your life where you realize that you've immersed so much skills from personal projects and also interacting with people who are similar to you. So one other thing that helped was due to the fact that I was I had the thinker's mindset, I subconsciously surrounded myself with people who were like me. And so I would pick skills from this person, from various aspects of tech, and ultimately it became a useful tool for me because I was able to understand the intersection between hardware and software and how the two communicate with each other on a regular basis. And this has been very useful towards my career trajectory. Again, a non-linear trajectory, nonetheless. So I've been able to work with, work in sectors where I am basically programming machines for specific purposes, and yet I don't have a robust knowledge when it comes to coding, right? But thanks to the power of the internet, it's really easy for you to pick up new things. Now, for many of you who are looking to, so I work primarily in security at the moment. System security integration is mostly what I do. So it sounds like a whole bunch of jargon, and really it is. Basically when you think about how hardware, software interacts and how useful it could be, the tools that you may need as a business with 100 employees may not be the same tools as someone with a business of 10 people needs. So I basically come in to set up that infrastructure without forcing you into a corner that says you have to use this tool because it's the industry standard. So coming from Africa, one of the things that I am particularly interested in is moving away from what we call industry standard tools, whether it's communication or business management, what we call industry standard, to something that's uniquely built for Africans. And I'm passionate about that. Hence my interest in open source tools and technologies. So I work with a lot of open source tools and technologies, and that allows us the ability to modify a lot of these tools to serve the purposes that are uniquely suited to Africans. I'll use Africans rather than Nigerians because I think we have similar experiences as Africans. So if you want to start a career in tech, there are different school of thoughts, especially cybersecurity, or system security, or even the security analyst. There are different schools of thought, and most people will tell you learn basic systems administration and then get a certification in a Cisco certification or a CompTIA certification. I think the CompTIA A+ is usually the best. I would advise you go for a CompTIA A+ because it gives you as much information in hardware, but also the software. And then eventually you have to get the Network Plus and the Security Plus. Now, outside of those, there are other advanced certifications like OSCP, CCIE from Cisco, amongst others. However, my trajectory, if I was starting all over again with the understanding of where I'm coming from, I may not go down the same path. I will most likely focus on something recent that I've observed, which is open source intelligence. It's called OSINT. Open source intelligence is basically utilizing, so I love data, right? Analyzing data and collecting data. So it's utilizing open source tools, right? Open source tools meaning Facebook, in a sense, you could say is an open source tool because people are dumping information for free, right? Open source tools like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, utilizing these tools to learn as much as you can about whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, and then build the information that you need from there. Now, as it relates to hardware, you can think of other open source tools like YouTube, the lady mentioned, Udacity, edX, and Coursera. And these are, in a sense, open source, meaning that the information that you're acquiring is free unless you want to pay for their certification. And so you're able to consume as much knowledge as possible without restrictions, assuming you have the discipline to do so. Because I think at the core of all of this is the discipline to want to keep learning and understanding that some of the knowledge that you acquire right now may not be useful right now, but comes in handy in the future. Now, once you have identified, so I'll give you a list of fields that you should look into when you're starting out your cybersecurity journey or data security journey or even systems integrations journey. So some of the a few specific roles that you should think about. There's OSINT, which is open source intelligence. Basically, it's just intelligence gathering. So this revolves around investigative work. You have cryptography, you have security architecture, you have incident responders, information security management, cybersecurity consultant. Penetration test, I think, is the most popular, where most people call them hackers, right? You could call them ethical hackers or black hat hackers, right? But penetration testing is the industry name, and then security analyst. Now, I bring in security because at the core of what I do is security. The reasons why I love hardware is because if your hardware is vulnerable, everything else is vulnerable. So your network can be vulnerable. However, if your hardware is secure, it limits the damage that you experience on your system. So these are some of the entry points into the data security and general security spaces. I believe that if you are looking into a career in this in data security or hardware security, learning how to build a basic computer is necessary, right? I don't know how many of you are familiar with the basic computer components, your laptop or desktop. How many of you have taken it apart? I've taken mine apart 100 times at this point because I'm constantly upgrading and modifying it to do what I need it to do. So you want to be able to identify which of these fields or which of these areas of security you want to go into, and then you can focus specifically on it. Now, I cannot go into the details of each of this. Hopefully in the Q&A, I will be able to answer more of your questions. And I know I've touched on a number of different things. So when the Q&A, when it's time for the Q&A, I will be able to answer some of your questions. But I think one of the, again, I will circle back to OSINT because I think it has a lower barrier to entry. Though it has limited relationship with hardware, it is one of the fastest ways to get into the security gig and also secure jobs. So recently I got a job from a client back home, they had been duped, and they needed me to assess the damage, to also investigate and try to trace the person to their location, but also see if it's possible to get their finances frozen with the bank. And within a few hours, I was able to gather as much information as possible to get the bank to freeze the account. And this was all done without paying for anything. And yet the client was willing to pay a significant amount of money. And I'm talking about a situation where you're not even in the country, and yet people within that country are willing to trust you and pay you enough to get the job done. Right? Obviously, that would also depend on the kind of people who are referring you, and the kind of jobs that you're taking. I turned down a lot of jobs, and I work freelance. I've not had a full-time job in a very long time. I think the longest I've worked for an entity is 6 months. In the last 4 years, no, I think 8 months. So they reached out, and I was able to collect as much information as one can without having to pay for a single thing to get that information. The only thing I paid for was a lawyer to go to the court to get a court order. And outside of that, I didn't pay for anything else. Now, what I'm trying to say with this is there are limited barriers to entries, and the limitation is usually you. If you are unable to discipline yourself to learn the necessary skills, then it becomes orders of magnitude more difficult for you to approach any particular field without thinking about the constraints that may be out there for you. I don't necessarily think that we have the kind of constraints that most of us think we do. Like Femi said, Cyprus is a unique place in that we are cut off in many ways in our accessibility. And he mentioned something about how you pay freelancers. And I believe that there are various tools that you can, how you pay freelancers. There are various tools that you can use. To give you some context, it's been a very long time since anyone paid me directly into my bank account, right? So I receive payments most times in crypto, and I've received payments from 4 different countries, 5 different countries: Germany, the UK, the US, and of course, Nigeria. Even from Nigeria, I get paid in crypto. And as most of you will know, you find an exchange anywhere you walk, anywhere you go to within Cyprus, you'll find an exchange. So I hope I've covered as much as possible, but if I haven't, sorry, this is a really big topic, and I think we have much to discuss, but hopefully we're able to move beyond just having these conversations to more practical steps. I am particularly interested in building tools that allows us to work for Africa while we're here. Just like a lot of banks in Nigeria are outsourcing their development to India, to formerly Ukraine before it collapsed, and Malaysia. They should be able to outsource these jobs to us while we're here, because we understand the unique needs of Nigeria and Africa. So it is necessary that we begin to think about building robust infrastructures on the island. So, or wherever it is you may be, for Mrs. Uchenna or Miss Uchenna in the UK, it is necessary that we begin to think about building a robust network and infrastructure that allows Nigerians to outsource jobs to us due to our unique position. So with that, I will say thank you for once again allowing me this time. Hello,
Thank you
Mr.
very,
Femi.
very much. Thank you very, very, very much. That was very detailed. That was very detailed journey through cybersecurity. I think it's interesting that since I started Allmark, I'm trying to think. Since I started Allmark, I think I've only had one person, and she was a lady. I mean, she is a lady. It's not like she has stopped being a lady. Walked up to me after church and said, "Oh, I would like to have a career in cybersecurity. How do I start?" and so on. And I wish I had met you at the time. Maybe I'll have just referred her to you and so on. I'm not sure how far she's gone with that. But I at the time, I gave the advice that I could. But yeah, thank you very much for sharing with us and going in depth into the world of cybersecurity. While you were talking, I did a quick Google search. The current salary for cybersecurity, product security people in the US. And it's about $100,000 to about, I think, $150,000. So yeah, it's a pretty lucrative role if you can get it. Okay. I would just touch on a few things. I should also state up front that we are supposed to have a third speaker from the US, Mr. Evans. He reached out to me yesterday afternoon to say he will not be able to make it. I think it's currently about 3 a.m. in the US right now. So he won't be able to make it because of the time constraints. And that's quite unfortunate. I was really looking forward. I know he has some fans in the audience. Some people had sent me private messages. I said, "Oh my God, Evans is coming. I'm so excited." I'm sorry, I did my best. But he couldn't make it. And maybe our next event, maybe he'll be here. I don't know. But I'm just going to share a few things and then we'll go straight to the question and answer session. The first thing I want to say is when we talk about working remotely, because I know that Bezalel mentioned freelancing. It's not had like a regular job in a long time. Interestingly, neither have I. There are two kinds of remote jobs. There is the freelancing roles and there's the remote roles. I think I need to clarify that. And just as he mentioned that we need platforms that can let people get hired, I think Mr. Mustafa here is also trying to build one for North Cyprus, where companies in Europe and the US and in the Middle East can hire talent from here. Freelancing is a lot more flexible, and which is why you can choose to get paid in crypto or any other way that works for you. You can even I know someone who gets paid in gold at the moment. Yeah. She's not here at the moment, but she gets paid in actual gold in Nigeria, and she's Nigerian. So if you were wondering. But remote jobs means that, for example, your employer is InterSwitch. You are going to work 9 to 5 as though you were in Nigeria. So that's 10 to 7 p.m. in North Cyprus time. You'll be like an actual staff of InterSwitch, but you'll be working from here. So that's a slight difference. In those kind of roles, they're not as flexible as freelancing roles, and you may not have the option to be paid in crypto. Such companies usually prefer structured and traditional means of paying you. That's where a bit of the challenge is. Some freelancing roles don't allow crypto, but generally freelancers have that option. I also wanted to say that they are non-tech roles. I think we had like a session, was this our 7.0 or our 6.0? I don't remember. But we talked about non-tech roles because not everybody is going to write code. I think we had Mr. Esau here. Yes, we did. I remember. We had Mr. Esau here with us at the time. Not everybody's going to write code. Not everybody's going to design. Not everybody's going to, I don't know, do security or product or data or whatever. our last event, we had a data analyst from Germany come speak with us. Some people are going to do the non-tech roles, like marketing, like customer experience, like customer success. And those are also roles in tech, but they are non-tech roles. And those roles are also very important because without them, the developers and the product managers and the designers won't really get very far. Somebody needs to engage and interface with the customers and the users and say, okay, this is what's going on, and then follow up with that. So platforms like skills like email marketing, like empathy, like knowing how to use MailChimp and HubSpot and all of that are quite important. Very, very important. You need to learn how to talk with people. So before we started the session, I was scolding someone on WhatsApp. We had agreed to do something, and he didn't do it. But not just that he didn't do it, he did come back to me to say, oh, this thing that we discussed, I didn't do it, and here is why. In case you needed to have like a plan B or something, so you can like make an alternative plan. He didn't say anything until I reached out. And, the deadline has passed. So I was a little disappointed, and I reached out and I said, well, I didn't appreciate this. I don't like working like this. If you are that kind of a person, you may not be able to work in customer success because you have to learn to follow up with users. You have to learn to, if you don't know how to tell people to calm down without saying calm down, and learn to appease to the better side of human beings. But that's that. Another thing I want to talk about, we've had sessions on portfolios, how to build a portfolio, how to get a portfolio. That's if you're a designer, you're a developer, and all of that. Or you're a writer. Some people who are very good at writing. Those are roles that you can reach out to and look into. But people say, but Femi, you talk about all of these things, and you've been talking about it. How then? I've been applying, I'm not getting anything. And I want to say I'm with you. I understand you. You are not entirely doing anything wrong. At the moment, yes, because of the tech crash and the financial crash and the global economy, the war in Ukraine and all of those things, tech is a little funny right now. It's a little fuzzy at the moment. So that's fine. But I still have a few tips to share with you. Number one, if you're looking for a role on the island in tech, you have to be careful so that you don't land into a role where they are actually committing fraud. Unfortunately, it's an issue on the island. And when I say fraud, many people will think I'm talking about the Yahoo boys. No, those ones, what they are doing is small. Whatever money those boys are making is a drop in the water compared to the scale of fraud that happens here. So you have to be careful so you don't end up working for people who are actually embezzling money or doing money laundering or whatever. You need to learn to ask questions. What does this company do? Where are you? What product are you selling? Who are their customers? Where are they located? You need to learn to ask questions about the company before you take the job. Very, very important, especially if they are domiciled on the island. Learn to ask questions, learn to ask people. Sorry, have you heard of this company? What do they do? Do you know anybody that works there? And so on and so forth. But outside that, your best chance of getting a job right now may not necessarily be the US or Europe. I know, yes, that's where they pay the best salaries. I'm not saying you should not apply. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should not apply. I'm saying your best chances are actually, if you're Nigerian, you're African, your best chances are Nigerian companies, African companies. If you're not Nigerian, you're not African, your best chances are European or Middle Eastern companies at the moment. Because a lot of governments are passing laws right now against freelancing or what is called offshoring, unless there is an agreement between their countries and that country. So for example, the US and India have an agreement on tech. So, which is why you might find a lot of US jobs outsourced to India. That didn't just happen. There was an agreement at the government level. The Dubai government also has certain relationships with certain US companies to do that as well. Saudi Arabia is doing the same thing. So unless that happens at a high government level, it's a bit hard to lock down on those jobs, which is why your chances are low. And countries are using that to protect immigration. They're using that to restrict immigration, to restrict jobs on the home front. They're using that to also play politics. That's why it's a bit hard for you, who is not a resident of those countries, to get those jobs. It's not that those jobs don't exist, they do. So for context, I'm talking about Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK, the US, maybe Germany. Again, I have not said don't apply. If you get an opportunity, do, but I'm saying this is where your chances are higher. If you are African, you are Nigerian, a Nigerian company is your best shot. If you're not Nigerian, a European company, a Middle Eastern company, especially if they're based in Dubai, your best shot. Then you can begin to look at other countries. I think Czech Republic and Hungary have a lot of jobs at the moment in tech. And I know this because I've been on Indeed for about 2-3 months now. I've been looking at the jobs they are posting. Czech Republic, Hungary, Romania, they have a lot of tech jobs at the moment. Whether or not you will get the job is a separate conversation. But there are a lot of jobs in those places. And I know because I've applied and I've gotten feedback from some of them. Okay, moving on. The next thing I want to talk about, Bezalel talked about referrals. Your referrals are very, very important. Before we go to referrals, I want to say that I think one challenge that tech people generally have is CVs. Because we're looking for freelancing roles, we don't invest in CVs. I think you should do both. Tailor your CV to the role you are trying to apply for. As somebody who does a lot of things, I think at the moment, I have nearly 20 CVs at the moment. And that's not to brag, but that's just to say that because I have a lot of skills, I need to tailor each skill to a role. So for example, I can do email marketing. Email marketing is under digital marketing. But if I'm going to apply for an email marketing role or a CRM role, I'm not going to submit a digital marketing CV. What I've done is shot myself in the foot. I'm going to redesign and tailor my CV for CRM is customer relationship management, for that CRM role or that email marketing role. Do you get the point I'm trying to make? So I'm going to do that. Brad, and that means I will now have 2 CVs, one for digital marketing, the other for email marketing or CRM. If I find a social media marketer or a social media management role, social media is under digital marketing, I am not going to send my digital marketing CV. I am going to send a social media management CV. Now I have 3 CVs or 4 CVs. So you see how it goes. What that does is that it just increases your chance because there's all kinds of algorithms and softwares and tools that people are using to cut down on applications and on people who are applying. They might screen your CV out if certain keywords don't match. Speaking of keywords, there are certain things in, you look at the job description, and those keywords mentioned in the job description, you must make sure that they appear in your work history. Unless you are lying, this should be easy. So for example, if you can do email marketing and they say they're looking for an email marketer or they're looking for somebody in CRM role, look at the job description and the way they listed that job description, the way it's written, there are certain keywords that will stand out. And make sure that those keywords appear in your job history. So if they call it, for example, let's say they call it CRM, somebody who has done customer relationship, don't want to put customer management or I reply to customers. No, use that same keyword because there's all kinds of software and algorithms that will filter out your CV before it even gets to a recruiter. The same thing on LinkedIn. You need to learn how to use those keywords so that recruiters and headhunters can find your profile faster. That's another tip. Back to referrals. You might need to, again, this, I don't know if this is a non-Cyprus thing. I don't know. I don't know if it works in non-Cyprus. You might need to go out a bit. You might need to go meet people where you live. In North Cyprus, it's a bit harder. Like I said, we have a unique experience on the island. But yes, if you are privileged to be invited to events, to go to certain places, please do. Please go. Meet people, introduce yourself. You may not necessarily land a job. I want to put it out there. You may not. But you will meet people, you will get exposed to opportunities. In Nigeria, if you're a Nigerian, I don't think you have an excuse because there are lots and lots of events everywhere for different things. There's product management, both online and offline. Find time to attend. You may not find a job, but you will find people that may connect you to opportunities. That's that. The final thing I'm going to talk about before we go into the question and answer session is the way recruitment is done now has changed a lot. Admin, if you are there, please, I want to share my screen. I want to quickly show you something. If you hated quantitative and verbal reasoning in school, I want to announce to you that finding a job now might be hard. I didn't say will be hard. I said might be hard. Because most jobs now the very first question, the very first whatever, is quantitative and verbal reasoning. Just a minute, please. Admin, I want to share my screen. What I want to do is show you some of the questions that you might meet if you are applying for a job. So your first question, and those questions may be tailored to your role, or they might not be. Those questions may be tailored to your leadership skills, your reasoning skills, your spelling skills. They may be tailored to many things. Okay, please confirm that you can see my screen. I have about a few minutes left. Please confirm that you can see my screen. Okay, good. Okay, so this is one of the tools that they use. There are many, but this is just one. It's called Toggle, and they have they're helping employers make recruitment easier. So I created a profile and just went on the back end. And so you can create like a job. So this is a product manager, UI UX designer, product marketing manager, and so on. But for the purpose of this conversation, let's just use the product manager. And then I'm going to come here and say, try the test yourself. What happens? It takes me directly to the tests, right? It tells me I have 12 questions, and those questions are spread over leadership and management, product development, product management frameworks, and teamwork. So this is what they are testing. And mind you, you have not even met the recruiter first. You have not gone in to say, and this is, you have not sent your CV. This is before you send your CV, cover letter, any of those things. You're going to have to do tests like this. And it is time for 20 minutes. Some of them have gone as far as saying, if you click on a different screen, you pivot to a different screen while you are taking the test will automatically end. So you can't do any other thing while you are taking the test. Some you can, some you can't. This is 12 questions, 20 minutes. The employer can, some of them are 20 questions, 20 minutes. I've done some of them like that before. So you have to be pretty fast. And you can only do the test once. Then some of these tests have, what's it called? Cutoff marks, which is usually about 70%, 75%, 80%. So if you don't meet that cutoff in about 2-3 minutes after taking the test, you get an email saying, we're sorry, you didn't make the cutoff. Bye-bye. And that's it. So let's see what the tests look like. All right, so you can see 12 questions on the side of the screen here. What are the attributes for optional for a product backlog item? Question 2. This is that. You can select more than one answer. So I'm just going to click random answers. I'm just going to do that because I want to save time. I'm just going to click random answers. You put in a product meeting, blah, 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 blah. Which of these 5 bugs would you resolve first? If you're a product manager, blah, 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 blah. I'm just, like I said, I'm just clicking random answers so that I want you to see, let's just go through the questions. Before you launch, you work on the task. So these questions are product manager questions. We're giving candidates, which example would be an example of unconscious bias or stereotyping. And by the way, this is an European company. It's not, and blah, 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 blah. Click that, click that, click that. And then you have some of your theory questions where you answer the question, could you have a good product lead and why? Imagine that your manager doesn't recognize the contribution of the product. How will you address this matter? This is teamwork questions. So basically, you're working on a product project. When you find out 2 members of your team are having a loud argument, what's the best way to proceed in situations like this? I would say take sides, no. Address the issue immediately. So let's assume that I am done. Right? Let's assume I am done and I say submit test. Okay? You can see that instantly I have gotten my results. Instantly I've gotten my results and it will be sent to my email. Don't worry, I'm not going to open my email for you, so you'll not see my email. But it will be sent to my email, the breakdown of the results, and so on and so forth. This is what the manager is going to see at the end. You say, I've been taking certain tests, I've been scoring 60%. But this one is 25%. So they're going to see your answers. This is the breakdown. They're going to see that based on how I answer the questions. They've already seen an analysis of my skills. Seen I'm very good at leadership. I'm very good at teamwork. But I'm not very good at product development, and I'm not very good at product management frameworks. I also scored 0 in communication. So there's also anti-cheating detection. That if the person cheated on the test, the person can know. But I disabled it because, again, this is just like a practice test. And it then gives the answers to the questions. But you're not going to see this as a candidate. Remember, it's the person the recruiter that is going to see this. It is based on this that they can now email me or just say that, okay, sorry, you didn't meet like the cutoff mark and so on and so forth. So what I then do is I created a profile and I use this to take tests. I just play around with it. And then, because some of the questions are repetitive, I learned that and I keep practicing because when you're applying for a remote job, it's different from being a freelancer. A freelancer, nobody's going to test any of this. It's most likely, can you do this? Can you solve this problem? And your strength of your referral, which is good, or they found you online. But for a remote job, they're going to test all of these things. And before you even get your foot into the door, you have been screened out already. And it's highly, highly competitive. Highly, highly competitive. There are other platforms like Hire Foster, like Crossover or Crosshire? I don't remember the name now. There are several platforms now. So you can go and create a profile on that same platform. It's called Toggl, and start practicing. Like I said, some of the questions are repetitive, so you get used to the platform, you get used to the questions, you get used to the way it is done. That increases your chances of getting some of these jobs online. So that said, we're going straight to the question and answer session. And here's what we're going to do. So that we don't have everybody unmuting at the same time. Chi, you're going to moderate this session because I've been talking all along and I don't want to do all the talking. You need to come and talk, you know. Please put your questions in the comment section. Please begin to type your questions in the comment section. And then Chi, you will moderate the session between our speakers. We will be done at, I think we have about 30 minutes left on the clock. So at 1 o'clock exactly, we should be done with this session. Okay. Please, all the questions that you have, this is a good time to go and type it in the comment section. And then we can begin to take those questions. We are waiting. All right, while you are typing your questions, I will use right of hosts. I use host privileges. Okay. Mr. Mustafa has left. I wanted to mention the sources. I wanted to mention. Yeah, I know him. He has left. I would reach out to him. Okay, I'm going to, like I said, please start typing your questions in the comment section, please. Please, if you don't ask your question and time is up, we will not take it. Like I said, at 1 o'clock, this event has to come to an end. by the special grace of God. But like I said, I'm using host privileges to ask my own question first. The first speaker talked about influencing people without authority. I want her to expatiate on that a bit. I used to say we should bribe them, we buy biscuits for everybody. As if you're a good boy, I'll buy you biscuits and sweets, or I'll buy you, I don't know, is it chocolates they are buying now? I don't know. I want her to speak a bit on that. Before we go on for the second speaker, when he's ready, he doesn't have to go immediately. I want him to speak on, there's this thing called Raspberry Pi, Pico, all those things. I want him to speak on it as it relates to cybersecurity. Okay, that's my time. Take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Femi. So product managers need to influence without authority, because let's be real, you don't really have authority as much. Like I mentioned, there's a saying in product management that you're the CEO of the product. And if you're a product manager, obviously you're part of a larger company, right? So company is bigger than you are. You're not the CEO, you're not anybody, you're just a product manager. And so it's important to not let that get to your head. And instead, because you don't have authority, find other ways to get people to do what you need to get, what they need to do, right? So you have your engineers, you have your designers, you need them to get something done much faster, like 2 to 3 times faster than they normally would. If you just left them to it. For instance, like a freelancer can set their time, right? But if they're working for a company, the company has goals, and so you would need to set those timelines for them. And so how do you get them to do that? It's by empathizing with them. Sometimes it could be that for instance, your engineer probably has issues at home, or they probably suddenly found themselves homeless, or it could be like they're sick, or they're just having like a mental health day, like they're just not feeling up to it. It could be several different scenarios. How do you still get them to do what needs to be done, or how do you extend that timeline, the delivery timeline, while also saying, okay, I guess they can take the day off, obviously with permission from your superior, maybe HR. So you're influencing things. Another thing would be using data. For instance, I gave an example of management wanting to ship a feature while the users have maybe, for instance, you have 1,000 users so far on your platform, and 500 or 600 of them have been requesting a feature, right? Or you conducted user research and you found that out of the 10 people you interviewed, 6 of them asked for a certain feature, or maybe not outrightly, but they mentioned pain points regarding a certain feature, or that would allude to the fact that they need a particular feature, right? You would then need to be able to say, okay, this is what needs to be done, communicate with management to say, I think we should do this instead. And how do you do that? You need that. You can only do that with data. And you can only do that by presenting the data, right? So you need to be able to have that conversation. You need to have presentation skills and be able to convince people, right? Without saying, I'm your boss, I'm the oga, do this, right? You need to be able to say, the data says this, this is the information that we have. And so this is why we need to either deprioritize a feature or prioritize a feature, or just pivot in terms of the product, or pivot in terms of the feature priority. And so, yes, that's what that means. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Before the question here, I think I saw Mr. Mustafa's question earlier. So he's back now. Can you please clarify the question? I think that was the first question I saw. Before we take on the other questions.
Yes, sure. Hello, everyone. Again, sorry, Femi knows about that, but I'm moving my house, so I'm going back and forth, dealing with lots of unexpected stuff. But it's good to be here. I try to be online and watch the presentation. Really impressive presentations, especially the first lady. The second one, I couldn't quite really listen because of the hustle that I'm engaged in. My question was, first of all, really impressive presentation in that myself, as an entrepreneur, as a marketing communication professional, we try to create a story here, and Femi is an indispensable with his team part of it in North Cyprus. And I'm not a tech person, but I run a really great tech team. I have always been a marketing person, salesperson, and people's person in general. So I'm quite astonished and I'm amazed that you have pointed out the importance of people skills, even in the tech. So I was wondering, because you were naming some sources to learn from. You talked about Coursera, Udemy, but also some other channels as well. Because I have developed people's skills, but because I'm at this currently in charge of another startup project, which will be hopefully launching in Dubai. It's a pet services app where you connect pet owners with pet caregivers. But we try to create a lot of difference. I don't want to get into detail to take your time up. But so basically, what are these sources where we can learn from regarding product management, product creation, other people's skills, and also maybe based on her experience, what sort of obstacles she has encountered or she has been encountering in engaging tech people, which, based on my personal experience, lack some serious people skills, because I had a lot of clash with my product manager who didn't want to engage in customers. And obviously, because I'm not a tech person and not a technical person, I find it extremely difficult to fix the problems that arise. So what are her remarks about these points? And thank you for organizing. It's been a fantastic occasion to be part of it. And I hope, Femi, we will join forces regarding raising awareness of tech boom that we are trying to push for, because society in general need to. I joined a TV program, which I do every Friday for a couple of weeks, and I talked about what we are trying to achieve regarding the tech revolution in North Cyprus. And apparently, the media, the mainstream media, is quite unaware of it. So we need to get together and address these challenges. Thank you very much again for having me, and I would like to listen to your answers.
Thank you, Mustafa. It's funny that you actually mentioned that most tech people don't actually have people skills. Yes, I would agree from my experience. It's a bit weird. I haven't worked here in the UK yet because I literally just moved last month. But so basically I can't tell. But in Nigeria, I think that the issue stems from the fact that the barrier to entry to tech is kind of low. And so you see lots of people who are just coming out of university, getting into jobs, being product managers, being engineers, designers, and they haven't had that traditional experience that we would probably, the older generation of, we probably would have had in traditional organizations. Like I before I went into tech, I used to work in the civil service, so the public service in a government organization. So there was like, I would hear, or people would tell me in tech that I was being a bit too formal, right? So you would see that experience, my previous experience, kind of spilled over into my experience in tech. However, most of these other guys haven't really had that experience of what a typical workplace is like, going to work 9 to 5, every single day, chain of command, which also kind of comes with like some cons, like red tape and bureaucracy. So I can understand that. However, with dealing with them, I usually, like with the people I coach and mentor, I tell them that it's almost like you're courting someone, right? Or it's almost like basically. So I say in Nigerian terms, like just like rub their head. Essentially what that means is like you're managing people, but actually what you're managing is people's egos, right? As much as you're managing their tasks, you're also managing their emotions and their egos. And that's a huge issue that I've faced in the tech space. There are just lots of quite inflated egos. And so you have to get the job done, and you have to get them to get the job done. And for you to be able to influence them, you would have to rub their heads, and which is basically massaging their egos. So I can do that as a woman, probably easier because, you kind of learn it from a younger age, how to like cater to people and how to, get people to do something for you without being too brash or coming across as too harsh. But what has worked for me would be empathy. So when I join a team, I'm making sure that I connect with people beyond just the work that we're doing, right? I get to know them. I have like one-on-one meetings with every member of my team. I try to be flexible in who I am, if that makes sense. And so, and find the commonalities that we share. What do you like? What kind of movies do you like? Find that little thing that people like, or people you share with people, you have in common with people, and you find that people actually tend to open up more. They become more friendly. There isn't that barrier, right? I've been burned as well, don't get me wrong. Like, you will still find people who would still betray you or whatever. but most of the time, like 90% of the time, people once you find that thing in common with people and you aren't too abrasive and you're much more flexible with who you are as a person, and you're also more outgoing, you see that people actually they open up and they actually do what you need them to do. From the perspective of a boss and your product manager telling you that they're not going to actually speak with customers, and you saying that you you don't have much experience in tech, I would say that your first would be to learn, right? Take courses. It's not difficult. Some courses on Udemy, the pro about Udemy, although I like in the last my speech, I talked about Coursera, the pros of Coursera. The pros of Udemy is that most of the courses are short and they are very broken down and very they go down to the nitty gritty. So you can have just one course that's just about how to get someone to do something, right? Or how to perform a particular task. And so you can take those courses. Because I've started companies, right, back in Nigeria, tech companies, and I know what it's like. I mean, I picked up UI UX design. I learned how to design because someone told me they would take over my company because they were designing the product, right? And so for me, I was like, wow, this person has courage and they are very brave because they have this skill, right? It's very important for me to actually become technical, and that's how I learned how to design. And so for me, I don't think it's an excuse to say, okay, or it's a reason to say you don't have technical skills. I would say learn them so that nobody has anything over you, especially as a startup owner, right? Learn as much as you can. So yes, that's my 2 cents, more like 5 cents, but yeah. Yeah, thank you very much.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Thank you very much. Really insightful observations and tips that I will be benefiting from. Thank you. Really, really, really much appreciated. And I think, Femi, maybe 9th event of Olmak should be on the role of people skills in tech world, because yeah, please note it, because I have seen a lot of, I mean, since the pandemic actually, and you know what we know as the Great Resignation, which exploded in the US, talks about the fact that people are fed up from the way they have been treated. I mean, it's not just in tech world, but everywhere. So I think we need to redefine the human being and human capital in business, in tech business, etc. But this is fascinating, really insightful tips. As for me, I will be definitely engaged in those courses. I'm quite encouraged. So thank you very, very much. But I think there's a lot to be done regarding UX and UI. I'm fascinated by it. I mean, I run a team who used Figma to create a prototype of the pet services app, and I really, really enjoyed it. And the way the team portrayed and presented every week the progress through Figma, I enjoyed using it. And now that AI is in place, everyone talks about it, and that should be the 10th event, Olmak, maybe, or maybe we can organize joint events. But this is something we will talk later, Femi. But we should I think, learn how to benefit from AI regarding UX and UI. So I think the bottom line is we all need to learn a lot, unlearn the old-fashioned understandings, knowledge, and start relearning. And I think as a Turkish Cypriot person born and raised here in North Cyprus, isolated from the rest of the world, I can comfortably say that we need to inject that into our society, because our society is not entrepreneurial society. People are quite comfortable with their lifestyle, or working in government jobs. But of course, it's all changing, and radically so. So I think we need to learn a lot and teach a lot to entrepreneurs, to entrepreneurial candidates, and to society, to mainstream media as a whole. Sorry, I made it a little bit long speech, but I'm really fascinated, especially now that I'm moving my house and I find a rare opportunity to listen to the presentations. Thank you again and again for having me and for such insightful and magnificent presentation.
Thank you very, very much. I didn't know that we could take over people's companies by being UI UX designers. What have we been doing? Imagine. I would just, in fact, all this time we're just doing our work and going home. We should have just been taking over people's
company owners now.
You imagine people just take over.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from him.
I know, right? All right. So let's quickly just take the rest of the questions in the comment section.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I can see the first one that says, what method do you use to validate your assumptions, and a method that practically works for you? There are several methods. There's prototyping, which is essentially creating a version of the product that you want to do, that you want to create, right? So you have someone design it and play around with it, just like Mustafa was just talking about. And then you give that to users to get their feedback, right? Do that and keep reiterating to see if what you're doing actually meets the needs of the users that you're creating products for. That's one. Number two, you have A/B testing. A/B testing is basically creating two versions of tests. There's also something called multivariate testing. But A/B testing is creating two versions of a product, right? Or for instance, a website, and then making sure, setting it to where different demographics in your user base, right, actually can view it and can use it and can give feedback based on that. And then you can tell, for instance, okay, let me give you an example. If you have a website, right, with prices, you want to know which prices are more optimal and which ones are more likely to draw in your customers or drawing more traffic to the website. You create two websites with different price points, and then you set it to, for instance, on your Google Analytics board, you set it 50% of your users that come to that website can view one website, 50% will view the other one, right? So Uchenna and say Femi, for instance, who can actually view two different websites without realizing that they're viewing two different websites, because unless they are in the same location, right? And so from there, you can actually figure out how many people are clicking on the on a product, and which prices are more favorable. Did they click on websites, check out the prices, like go to the price page, and then leave the website, right? You can actually track all those things. And so that's what basically A/B testing is about. So multivariate testing is basically like doing that, but with multiple what I say, specimens or like different products. And then we have number 2 that says, do interviews really work considering that most people might not give you the information you need? They do work, and that's why you need to be able to get information from people. I'm not saying be manipulative, but you should be able to get information from people without being direct, without asking them directly, right? So instead of saying, do you think we should change this button to like, do you think we should move this button to the right? You ask the user, could you please perform this task? How was it? Oh, it was terrible. Oh, why would you say it was terrible? I don't know. I felt uneasy. Usually on a website, I would find this button on my right-hand side, and now it's on my left. I'm right-handed, right? They've given you that insight to say, because users, like, or most users are right-handed, it would make more sense to put it on their right? Whereas you put it on the left. Or it could be that, industry standard is putting it on the right-hand side, and you put that button on the left. And so learning to ask questions indirectly without actually putting your own bias as a product manager to validate. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, as a product manager, you're a human being. You might want a feature, right? Or you might want a product. And so in an interview, you might want to push, you might want the user to validate that request or that idea that you have in your head. And so you push them, you ask them questions that make them say, okay, yes, this is what I want. Whereas you shouldn't do that. You should actually ask questions, indirect questions that actually tell you more about the user, that open-ended questions where they can speak more, and then you can get your answers from that. So yes, interviews actually work. And most times, if you're good at interviewing people, they tell you more than you even need to know, and help you make more better decisions, product decisions. Number 3 says, managing a team. What practical method works really for you, considering you will manage different subgroups with each of them having ego issues? The same thing works with everybody. In most companies, regardless of whether you're working with, whether there are, like, say, 100 people in the data team, a product manager can't manage 100 people. You're either managing by product, or you're managing by something called like a pizza slice, like format, team format, where one product manager to, say, like 4 data engineers and 2 designers, and so it's easier to manage the teams that way. And regardless of there being subgroups, if you can empathize with them, most times it will work. If they respect you as someone who actually knows what they're doing, that's one barrier. The first barrier drops, right? Like with the example I gave with the designer, they didn't respect me as the CEO at the time, because they knew that I wasn't technical, right? And so they could come to me to say what they said. But if I was more technical, and since then, obviously being more technical, and people in your team, especially like the engineers and the designers, them knowing that you are actually able to do, your stuff, that's one barrier. And that's one, like, it drops like the first wall that they have. And then you being able to get past that and empathizing with them and getting to know them better as human beings, not just as colleagues, drops that second barrier. And then, just actually being, like, over time, working with someone over time also drops the last barrier, right? Unless the person is just a a terrible human being, and you see that once in a while. Yeah, that's basically that. Coaching program. Okay, sure. That's my LinkedIn. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can have a conversation. Thank you so much. I hope I was able to answer all the questions.
Wow. Okay, there's just one last question which I will take, and then we can call it a day. So nobody asked Mr. Hardware any question. You people don't like hardware. It's okay, we will bring him back. You must ask hardware question. We must. Okay, so this guy, Abdul says, with the layoffs happening in tech, what will advise a newbie to do? I would have said give up, actually. But you have said I should not say give up, so it's fine. So I won't say give up. I think the first thing I would say is, you might need, first of all, you might need to make sure that you're not hungry. So you might need to find something to do in the meantime before your tech dream plays out. You may not get like a job immediately. And of course, your rent is going to be due. You have to buy food and all of that. That needs to be sorted out. So if that means taking up a job that you don't normally like or you don't want to do, or will take you a bit closer to your goals, or will give you something to hold on to while you are still applying, please do that. So that's number one. Number two is, like I said earlier, you might want to start from where your chances are good. As much as I know that you can get a job as a Nigerian anywhere in the world, and you can, Nigerians have, US, UK, anywhere, I always maintain that it's always easier to start from where you are wanted. So, like I said earlier, if you're a Nigerian or an African, look for remote jobs in Nigeria or from Nigerian companies. Indeed, LinkedIn are great places to start from. Again, it does not mean that you cannot get jobs in Europe, US, UK, you can. But your chances are higher with a Nigerian company. Another thing you can do is, this doesn't necessarily work. It will get you attention, but it will not get you the job. You can change, because you're in Cyprus, you can change your location to Cyprus, or if you're in the UK. But the problem is, and I've had this experience before, there was this headhunter that came into my DMs on LinkedIn. Oh, we saw your profile, blah, 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 blah. We want to recruit you for this role. It was in Latvia. And the company was in Riga. Riga is the capital of Latvia. And I was excited. Oh, yeah. And they said, oh, we also have offices in Cyprus. So if you don't want to come to Cyprus, Latvia, you could work in Cyprus. And then we went through, we had like 1 or 2 meetings. And then she comes back and says, do you have the right to work in Cyprus? And I'm like, I have this. So this is how I replied her. I have the right to live and work in North Cyprus. That's how I replied her. So she replies, what is North Cyprus? I'm like, I thought as much you didn't know what you were talking about. So I started to explain to her, oh, you know, Cyprus is divided. I'm in the north, there is the south, blah, 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 blah. Long and short of the story, she goes, oh, I thought you were in the south. Long story short, the company said no, that they would prefer somebody who lived in the south. Sometimes I change my location to Turkey. So you get offers from some Turkish headhunters, some Turkish companies. But generally, because the Turkish economy is in a mess right now, opportunities are very, very few. And if you are not in Istanbul or is it Antalya now, you may not necessarily be considered for the role. They prefer somebody who already lives there. Getting a Turkish visa now, well, as a Nigerian, well, you can go and try. It's not as straightforward, but you can go and try, like I said. So this does not mean that you should not apply for these roles. If you are not Nigerian or African, European companies are your best bet, and then Middle Eastern companies, especially companies who have their headquarters in Dubai, they are your best bet. If you're a Nigerian who lives anywhere else outside North Cyprus, like the UK, Germany, whatever, yes, European companies are your best bet. Then followed by US companies. Some US companies will still insist that you should either be a US resident, which you can be without necessarily living in the US, or have the right to work in the US without living in the US. You can also get that before they give you the job. So if you can go and get that, good for you. Or if your company has branches in both the UK, in Europe and the US, also good for you. Another thing is you might also want to look at, because sometimes before that, look at, like I said, countries like Czech Republic, like Hungary, like Romania. There are a lot of tech jobs in those countries. The biggest problem is that you either need to be an EU citizen or you need to be in the country. In some cases, they might be willing to offer you a work visa, which is why I said go and apply. It's challenging because getting the work visa from North Cyprus, they don't have an embassy here. So as a Nigerian, for example, it means you have to fly back to Nigeria, you have to go to the embassy in Abuja, you have to do all of that wahala. And once they see that the process is going to be hard, they will just back out. This has happened to me and to someone that I know personally. Once they start describing the process to them, they will just say, you know what, don't worry, we'll find somebody else, because the paperwork and the stress is a lot. But again, go and apply, because I know the tech scene in Czech Republic is budding. So there's a lot of jobs there, especially in design, in customer success, and I think product, I'm not sure. But check those jobs. You might be the lucky person to get in. Czech Republic, Hungary, Romania. Then platforms like Fiverr and Co, they are good, but most people don't really get paying jobs from them. Again, I'm not discouraging anybody. I'm just saying this is my reality. You might get there and you might be the favored one. So go and try. They are good, and you may not be able to, you may be able to finally find somebody who will pay you for your gig. That's fine. I've also said attend a lot of events. And if you live in North Cyprus, that might be a little hard, because getting invites to certain events, you need to know people to get into those kind of events. So that's why it's a little hard. But if you have that kind of access, please attend. If you're not in North Cyprus, attend a lot of events. You'll meet people who will connect you to those events. There's also these sites in North Cyprus. I will post the link and I will put a disclaimer about the sites. It's called ishkebris.com. The thing about the site is that before you are going to get a call back from employers, this is for those who live in North Cyprus, ishkebris.com. You probably need to apply for about 50 or 70 jobs before you get one call back. So bear in mind that you need to put in the work. It's the same for Indeed, I think. Bear in mind, you really need to keep applying. But the disclaimer is, it's not Cyprus. There are a lot of shell companies, there are a lot of fraudulent companies, there are a lot of money laundering companies masquerading in North Cyprus. So you need to be very, very sure what you're applying for. And even when you are invited for the interview, do your investigation. What is this company? Who are they? What do they do? Who knows about them? You know, because people don't really share stuff on the island, right? So nobody knows, okay, what salary should I negotiate for? What's like the minimum wage and so on. We all just keep it to ourselves and we suffer in silence. So the risk is that you will end up working for a company that does money laundering or does fraud, and you might get into trouble. The North Cyprus police may or may not arrest you. They don't really do that. But if it's an investigation that spills over from the south, trust me, they will gladly offer you up to the south. They won't think twice. So investigate the company properly before you take any job. Ask for a job contract. If they are not willing to give you a job contract, that might be a red flag. All in all, I would say that keep putting your work out there, keep applying. It's really tough right now in tech, I know, because of the global whatever that is happening. It's really tough right now. And everything is just in a weird flux of things. You might also want to look at non-tech roles, like I said, like customer service, like people management. You might also want to look at that. And if you can, you might also start your own company. This is my final note, so we can bring this meeting to a close. You might not know them, and this is for everybody. There's one of the most popular agencies in North Cyprus. They're called Design Lab Advertising. They just won an award recently. They won gold in the business website category for a website that they designed for the TRNC Chamber of Commerce. No, TRNC Law Association of Lawyers or Law Chamber or something. They are law chambers. Similar to the Nigerian Bar Association, the TRNC Bar Association, the equivalent here. So they designed the website. I saw the award on Instagram. I'm like, oh, congratulations to you guys. Then I'm like, wait a minute. On second thought, let's go and look at the website that you designed. Maybe I, let me think. And men and brethren, I saw the website. Oh my God, it was absolute rubbish. I know at least 5 people on this call, right now that can design better websites than them. But they won an award. Why? Because they applied. Simple. Because they applied. Yes, I went to check the people that they contested against. I don't think there were many people that contested against in that category. So if you don't apply, well, whoever wins it, and it's fine. Whoever wins it. That's what it is. So if I know that these opportunities are fun in between, especially for us who come from the global south, but still keep your head up and just hang in there. It gets better. That's all I can say. I wish I could tell you that, when you press this button and press that button, sometimes you might need to apply for 200, 300 jobs before you get the first call back. Like I said, this one for each Kibrit, I know this because I have a personal experience. You might need to apply 50, 70, 100 jobs before you get your first call back. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. But so you need to keep applying, you need to keep going, you need to keep editing your CV, keep dusting your CV, and keep your cover letter and all of that. See, somebody's telling me that she has applied to 1 million jobs. I mean, it's crazy. I know someone that used to cry, that used to call me crying, in Germany, and she'll call and cry and cry and cry and cry. By the way, Germany has this thing. Before I forget, Germany has this job seeker visa. You don't need to get a job. You don't need to have a job or get a job offer to move to Germany. You don't need that anymore. You just need to have some money in the bank and apply for the visa. And the visa is valid for 1 year, and you can use that 1 year to get a job in Germany. Sorry, if you live in North Cyprus, you have to go back to Nigeria to get it, because the German embassy here will not give you any visa longer than 3 months. And that visa is valid for 1 year. So if you live here, I'm sorry, again, North Cyprus problems. So you might need to go back to Nigeria or go back to your country to apply for it. But if you're not a Nigerian or you don't live in Nigeria, maybe you might, or you currently live in Nigeria, you might want to look at that as an opportunity, especially if you are in tech, especially if you're in tech. Like I said, it's really, really rough right now. Thousands and thousands of people have lost their jobs. I mean, I've lost count. In fact, there are even startups and companies have gotten to the point where there are fake jobs on the internet now, which is why sometimes you're not getting a call back. I did a tweet about it. I don't know if I can find the link. If I find it, I'll put it in the comment section so that we can go. Some of those jobs are actually fake. And when I say fake, it's not that they are scam. It's not that the jobs are scam and that, they will come and steal your money. No, the job does not exist. But they put it there to create an impression that they are hiring, just to create that impression. And you go there, I found the link. You go there and apply for the job thinking that, oh, you found something. But according to the Wall Street Journal, 30% of vacancies online currently, 30% at the moment are fake. And that goes from LinkedIn jobs, Indeed jobs, Glassdoor jobs, all those platforms where you apply for jobs from. 30% at the moment are fake. I think it is more than that, but that's the estimate. So this is on top of the jobs that are actually scam and all of those things. So this might be why you are not getting responses, because those jobs don't exist. I've also said that some of those jobs are using all kinds of algorithms to weed out your CVs. So look at the job description and look at your CV and make sure that the keywords in those job description especially as it pertains to the role. For example, if you're in product management, you might want to be using words like agile and then prototyping and all those things. Those are keywords. Make sure they also exist in your CV. For that, some of them I use words like low fidelity, high fidelity, you know, those buzzwords that they like to throw around. You might want to make sure that they are in the job description of your CV or in the skills section, so that the algorithm doesn't like, you know, thrash out your CV before it even gets to the recruiter. So that's another thing. All in all, it's really, really tough out there. You really need to double down and keep going at it. What I do is I just do it at my free time, 10 jobs a day, 5 jobs a day, 20 jobs a day, and I leave it at that. Don't let it become like a burden so that you don't get depressed and all of that, because yeah, it can be depressing, I know. Anyway, I've shared the link. You can go and read it. You can go and read the article, and hopefully we'll all get out on the other side. Don't be tired. I know it's exhausting. I know. All right. We are done. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. Thank you for the speakers. Thank you to everyone who took time out to join us today at Allmark 8.0, North Cyprus, Nigeria, the UK. Thank you very, very much. We will see you at Allmark 9.0, like Mr. Mustafa said. We'll talk about people's skills. I think it's pretty important. I'm also going to put this link here. For that, the link for the practice tests. You can create a profile like I did, pick your job, the job role that you're applying for, and then begin to apply. Begin to do practice tests, begin to test the questions, and get used to the questions, because that's another thing that happens that they're using to weed out candidates these days. So I'm putting the link there. So you can see it. Yes. Thank you very, very much. God bless you. Have a fantastic Saturday. God bless you. Goodbye.
Thanks. Have a nice day, bye.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.